Have you ever gotten that weird feeling you're being filmed when you're simply going about your day? You may have seen a lot of people on Twitter or Instagram talking about this phenomenon. Well, guess what? We have a name for it: Truman Syndrome. And yes, as in the iconic Jim Carrey movie, The Truman Show. Intrigued? Keep watching, because in today's video, we're going to tell you all about it. Let's dive in. First up, The Truman Show made viewers believe that they were in a movie. It's really quite incredible how our imagination works. If you start thinking that you're in a movie, you'll actually start moving as if you're being filmed. You may change your gait, or maybe you'll start singing a little tune. You'll be conscious of every single move, and you'll feel like you're being watched by a bunch of people. If you know what we're talking about, then you may actually be suffering from a syndrome. Back in 2008, the New York Times released a very fascinating article. It said that psychologists in Britain reported that those in the United States of America were experiencing Truman delusion or Truman syndrome in some form. So reportedly, some people actually believe that they are the unwitting star of their very own reality TV show. Apparently, this film was mentioned by many people during their therapy sessions, with them thinking that they were actually being toyed with. If you remember the 1998 Peter Weir film, you'll know that it tells the story of one Truman Burbank, whose entire life has been filmed and broadcast as a soap opera. What's worse is that he wasn't even told about it. Every single person around him is either a paid actor or an extra. The plot revolves around our protagonist slowly finding out that there is something very wrong, and he starts trying to escape the town in which he lives. But his show is actually very successful, so the producers try to keep it going even when he's completely unsatisfied. The actors are ordered to tell Truman that he's completely imagining these things and that he's mentally ill. Next up, beliefs can turn into delusions very easily. It's a testament to the quality of the movie that it had such a huge impact on people. In September 2013, the detailed account of one Ohio student, Nick Lotz, who suffered from the condition, was published in an article by the New Yorker magazine. Nick felt like he was being watched by millions of strangers around the world and that people were making fun of him in some way. At one point, he decided to embrace this and started leaving his laptop open. In class, he'd start smiling and laughing as if to let people know that he was in on the joke. So yeah, beliefs can turn into delusions very easily. If you start hyperfixating on an idea, you can actually change your perceptions of reality. This can be really dangerous if you're not careful, because you start believing that everyone else is lying and you're the only one who knows what's going on. You can get paranoid that everyone is out to get you, and it can take a huge toll on your mental health. While every single one of us has felt like the main character at one point or another, it's important to stay grounded. If you feel like it's getting a bit too hard, you can always seek professional help and talk to a psychotherapist. Now, for Jim Carrey believes that the film is more relevant now than ever. While the concept of this syndrome might sound kind of bizarre, star Jim Carrey has revealed that he believes the world right now is actually much closer to The Truman Show than most would imagine. In 2020, he told Collider that he thinks the movie is something that kind of exists on a micro level now. Back then, they were trying to tell the story on a macro level. He pointed out that now everybody has a subscriber channel and their own little Truman Show world. He said that he's often asked what would have happened to Truman when he goes beyond the wall, and Jim believes that our hero would be alone out there too, because everyone else went back inside. They all wanted to be in the dome, and he'd be the only one who was trying to live a real life. You know what? We kind of agree with him. It's very easy to get lost inside of your own bubble these days. While there is nothing inherently wrong with having a social media presence, you should always be conscious of the fact that the real world is very different, and all of your subscribers are not your friends. Coming up, Jim said the quickest yes of his career to The Truman Show. Isn't it kind of interesting that Jim has so many iconic comedic movies, but perhaps none of them is as impactful as this sci-fi flick? Like we said, it still resonates with people today. Even Prince Harry, of all people, referenced it recently. In a podcast last year, he actually compared his life to that of Truman and said that at times he actually feels like an animal in a zoo. And you won't really be surprised to know that Jim knew about the movie's potential from the very beginning. He has a very good understanding of cinema, and he knew straight away that this film would be a success. A couple years ago, he shared that it was the movie he said the quickest yes to. He revealed that he had actually thought of the context himself, but he just couldn't crack the code. And when he was handed the script by Andrew Nichols, he read it, and he knew within the first 10 pages that he had to do this movie. In hindsight, what a fantastic decision. We're so glad he decided to do this, because we really couldn't imagine anyone else playing this character. Jim's dramatic chops are very underrated, and with this movie, he proved that he can pull off these roles as well as anyone else. We have to wonder, if he hadn't been a part of this movie, would we still be talking about it today? Would the Truman Syndrome be a thing? Guess we'll never know. Oh, and if you're wondering what other movie he said yes to instantly, it's of course Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Coming up, a lot of people still talk about relating to the movie on Twitter. Just a few weeks ago, Twitter user Julian Casamigos said that they believe they're developing Truman Show syndrome because every time they see an ad for the Gap, the models are wearing sneakers they own. They added that it can't happen every single time, it just can't. While this was obviously a joke, it's kind of terrifying how ads are marketed at us. Almost every single app on your phone is listening to you, and they direct their content according to the stuff you talk about. And it can be really unsettling to see 50 advertisements about white sneakers if you've just mentioned them to one of your friends. Another user asked their followers if they also feel like they're living the plot of The Truman Show. In short, like we said, this film has managed to stay a huge part of our collective consciousness, and for good reason. At the end of the day, it's just a really fantastic movie. Yes, the concept is very Black Mirror-esque and kind of out there, but the main character is just so easy to root for. He's charming, nice, kind, and just deserves better. And let's be fair, the movie isn't really an exaggeration. Not really. Princess Diana lived under those conditions years and years ago, and we've already talked about how Prince Harry can relate to it. Still, there are some people who are kind of tired of the discourse surrounding this film. One user, at ARB, joked that they're suing the writers of the movie for giving their entire generation main character syndrome. Finally, can the movie ever have a sequel? While people have talked about a potential sequel for a very long time, we really don't think it was a good idea, mainly because the first movie was just so perfect that there's really no reason to add to it. The ending is widely regarded as one of the greatest film endings of all time, and we don't think the next movie will ever be able to replicate that. Sometimes Hollywood just needs to let some things be. The Truman Show was an incredible cinematic experience, one that has stood the test of time. That doesn't mean that we need to see a sequel that could potentially tarnish its legacy. If someone misses it, fine, just go and rewatch it. We promise you, you'll have a great time, and maybe you'll find something you hadn't noticed before. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think? Do you believe the Truman Syndrome is a real thing? Have you ever felt like you're inside a movie? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Goodbye for now, and see you in the next one.